Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is Dr. Bob, and this is the space and the place where we talk about things important to your soul. As always, we ask that you like us, subscribe, maybe even support us on Patreon. All of those things help keep us on the air. And just a reminder, it's not too late to get on board for our trip to Bali in June of 2026. If that interests you, just send me a note and I'll give you all the information. So today's guest is somebody who I've met multiple times, typically at psychic fairs, and we've talked multiple times about her being on the show, and finally, a couple years later, here she is. So my guest is Cynthia Cavitt. She brings to us over 28 years of experience of energy healing. She began her journey into self-healing in her early 30s after experiencing many allergies and illnesses throughout her childhood and adult life. She started out learning about herbs and homeopathic healing and taking a physical approach to her healing. In 1997, she began her journey into energetic healing while taking massage classes. She learned about crystals and their energetic properties and how they could help with healing, while also beginning her journey into Reiki and energetic modalities. She also felt called to become a universal life minister at this time. She continues to add to her education, and she's now a Reiki Master in 10 different forms of Reiki. I didn't even know there were 10 forms. Cindy has worked with SRT, Spiritual Response Therapy, EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, OrthoBionomy, which she calls spontaneous release, crystal healing, access bars, channeling, and light language for a number of years. She makes custom jewelry and pendulums so that you can have access to some of her healing energy when she's not with you. So that's all I'm going to say about her, because there's a lot to dig into there. But as we always begin, Cindy's going to tell us about her spiritual journey. Cindy, the mic's all yours.
Okay, so like my bio says, that I was very sickly as a child. I had so many allergies. I had skin allergies, I had the food allergies, I had the sneezing kind, itchy, you name it, I had it, to the point where I finally developed asthma. And I just reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. It was too hard. And I didn't enjoy not being able to go places. Like, I loved animals and I was allergic to dogs and cats and hay and horses and all the things that I wanted to spend time around. And one day I got inspired because I was reading something that talked about herbs. And I thought, they used to use herbs in the Bible. Maybe there's something to that. And so I made my way over to a GNC, and there just happened to be a book sitting out with the page open. And I got there, and it talked about what to use, what different kind of herbs if you've got this or this or this condition. So I'm reading about allergies, and I looked up all the different ones that would help with allergies. And so I bought some. And after taking them for a little bit of time, I noticed that I was starting to get improvement with some of my symptoms. Well, I'm a very curious person. I like to dig into things. I once I get in there, I really like to start delving deep. And so I was interested in, is there a way that these can be healed without there being side effects? Like, I didn't want to just take something to cover it up, and I was kinda hoping that's what herbs was doing, but I started massage school, and within 2 days of being at massage school, I met somebody who told me about Reiki, and I was curious, and I think within a day or 2 days after that, I had my first Reiki attunement with Yasui Reiki. And I noticed that as I was doing Reiki, I was having more improvement with some of my symptoms. And I'm like, hmm, there's something to this. And so the more I spent time around spiritual people, I guess even when I was a little kid, I always believed that there was such a thing as past lives. A lot of people don't. I did. I figured this couldn't be all there is. And so when I started researching a little bit, I started finding information and I don't remember exactly how I found out, but it was like I learned that there were certain things that meant something, and I'm like, "Okay." And when I started into that healing journey of, like, first, I think we just sent Reiki into those past lives, and I would notice something would shift, and it was subtle, and I couldn't even explain what was different, I just knew something was different. And so, I was brandy new in massage and noticing that I had a lot of very tight muscles, and I learned in massage school that tight muscles meant stuck energy. And I started to learn a little bit about energy while I was at massage school because we didn't just do massage there, we were learning about trying to remember what it's called now, but there was one massage that we would practice where you used your feet to, massage somebody. You stood and you used your foot and pushed on the meridians, and so I started learning about the meridians in massage school and learned about reflexology, and so I'm thinking, "Okay, there's places on your feet you can massage, and if you can clean, the toxins out of your body, a lot of things will heal." And I started learning that there was an energetic connection to illness, um, by being in this massage school. And, by learning Reiki, it was like, okay, there's an energy there. And so what I learned was dis-ease or disease was stuck energy. And that was like the most simplest explanation to me, but very powerful. Is that okay? If is diseased, it means there's something stuck there. Something's not moving the way it's supposed to. So I started learning through massage and through moving energy and clearing toxins from the body that once you got the energies moving, the dis-ease or diseases started to dissipate. And so I had started out with the herbs, which was mostly physical. But then when I got into the energy stuff, I did massage for about a year and found out it took a lot of my energy. It was very hard work and I could do it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I found that I loved moving energy with Reiki. And I found I could massage somebody with Reiki without even touching them. And I was able to move energy. And maybe at the first couple levels of Reiki, you don't necessarily feel a lot. You're new, you don't understand, but the more Reiki you get, the more intuitive it becomes. And so that was the beginning of my journey into healing energy, and I got addicted. It was so much fun, and I found that I could do the same thing. Like, I guess my next thing was I was working as, massage therapist in a space, and when I was massaging them, my Reiki would kick on. And intuitively, all of a sudden, I was touching people and I would go, "You need vitamin C. You need about 500 milligrams twice a day." Or suddenly I knew what herbs, like in touching them, I knew what herbs to tell them, and they would go to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor would muscle test them. And sure enough, I worked with Dr. Weiner, and Dr. Weiner would test them, and he they'd get a yes to what I told them they needed this many times a day for this herb or this vitamin or whatever. And so I found I had a knack for it. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey into starting to look into past lives, and found out through some way or another that I had been, oh, I know, a psychic told me. She said, "You used to do that in past lives." And so I did a regression with someone and found out, yes, I had been an herbalist and I knew all about that kind of medicine, which is why it came naturally to me, why I could touch somebody and go, "Oh, you need this." And so what was happening while I was working at um, the pain release clinic is the clients that I worked on were healing and not coming back. They were getting better and then they didn't have to go anymore. And they weren't sure if I was, like, telling people to not come anymore, but it was just that the people that I was working on were actually beginning to heal from the issues that they had, because while I was working on them, my Reiki would kick on and it was helping at the same time. And so I did massage for about a year, and then it was time to move on again because I'm a Gemini. Geminis have a tendency to get bored. And I found that unless I'm learning something new, after a while, it's like, oh, I kind of get bored with it and I have to add something else to my repertoire. And so I'm constantly, I feel like a little robot running around saying, "Input, input, I need input." And I just enjoy it. I enjoy learning. And so it began a journey for me where I spent so much time in books. Books and books and books, and the more I read, the more I wanted to know, and the more I knew, the more I wanted to do, and I just kept being led on this journey from one place to another and the more I did that, the more my allergies healed. The more I looked into the past lives where during this studying, I found out that, well, if you have an allergy to a cat, that generally in a past life you were killed by like a lion or a tiger. It was usually a big cat and you ended up in a death. So allergies were usually a death by something in another time. And if it was just a harming, it was more of an inharmony rather than a full-blown allergy. And so that became my specialty then, is I worked on myself to clear up my allergies until I really didn't have anything left except maybe I probably had at least 20 allergies back then. And I'm down to maybe just a skin allergy or two now. And I haven't quite worked that out yet because I still have an issue with poison ivy and a couple different plants, but I don't have the sneezy kind anymore because I had allergies to dust and mold and cats and dogs and horses and hay and grass and trees and flowers and like you name it, I had the allergy. So it was more my journey that got me wanting to do this for other people, because the more I knew, the more I wanted to share. I couldn't wait to tell other people, "Hey, do you know about this? Maybe I can help you." And so instead of doing massage therapy, my specialty began being energy healing because I found I was good at it. And that the more I delved and the more I looked for the little nuances, the little, well, what does this one? I noticed that if I saw a pattern like 3 times, like with different people, suddenly I'd have an aha moment of how to fix it. And that seemed to be the thing. It was like I would, come across people and sometimes all in the same day. And it wasn't unusual even at when I was doing massage therapy that everybody who came in on the same day all had a similar issue. And it was the weirdest
Mm,
thing. I'm like, I could work on 6 or 8 people in a day and they all had something very similar happening the day that they came in. And so I could see patterns, and the more I could see the patterns, the more I knew how to clear the patterns. So that's the start of how I started getting into all of these neat energy things.
yeah. Just to back you up a little bit to childhood, were you raised in any particular religious tradition?
I was raised Catholic, and we did faithfully go to church every Sunday. When I reached high school, my family was falling apart. My mom and dad were divorcing, and my mom had left the house. And so I continued on my own to go to church. Even I had a younger sister. I had three older siblings that had already gone and moved out. And we were a church going family. We did things together as a group. We had a lot of fun. Oftentimes Sunday after church, our whole family would get together and take a ride to visit somebody.
Mm,
And so we always did things as a group, and we had s- some groups. So we would visit a lot of family members and cousins and things on the weekends. And we even had a seminary that we spent a lot of time at, and we would go out there and spend hours. We'd go to church, but then we'd spend the day with the brothers from the seminary. And we were a singing family, so a lot of our
mm,
family gatherings, we would sit around and sing, and there would be 3 and 4-part harmony. And as we got older, the seminarian brothers would come to our house for a lot of the holidays, and that was not unusual for us to have the big meal, and then we would go to the living room and all the guitars would come out. My oldest brother played guitar, my mother played piano, and we would sing for hours and hours.
goodness.
And so I had this enjoyment of being around groups of people and having a fun time together.
So, what part of the country was this?
This was in Wisconsin, and that was my childhood, and I think I was 19 when I moved away from Wisconsin, and I never felt drawn to go back
Oh,
because my family is so far apart. There's not both of my parents have passed away, and we did go to visit them a lot, and they were maybe 3 miles from each other.
mhm,
And once they were gone, there was no central area to gather anymore because my family was scattered. So some in the north west of Wisconsin, some in the southwest, and then some in the middle. And it just didn't make for
yeah.
good gatherings.
So, what brought you to Pittsburgh?
I had a my oldest sister had lived here, and her and her husband had lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he had been transferred to Pittsburgh to work for PPG Paints. And they had been here for a while. And when my parents got the divorce, there was really nothing left for me in Wisconsin. And I, because it was the year that my parents got divorced, college wasn't talked about for me. Like everybody else had help getting ready for college, and my parents
Mhm.
weren't really there to be able to do that when it was my turn. So my oldest sister said, "Why don't you come out to Pennsylvania and go to college here?" So I got the invitation and it just felt right.
Oh,
So I came out and I never went back.
okay. So, your training in massage, did that happen in Pennsylvania or did that
That did
happen
happen
in
in
the
Pennsylvania at the Career Training Academy, when it was still in Monroeville. And Interestingly, last night I ran into one of my instructors, and I haven't seen her in, like, over 20 years, and I just saw her last night at a Christmas party. She's
Oh.
like, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." So, yeah, I loved going to massage school. It was amazing, and I'm very grateful that I learned what I learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I choose not to do massage now, I use what I've learned, and I know, with the muscles and everything, and I use everything I learned in there
Yeah.
in my practice now.
Okay. Well, I'd like to delve into some of the things in your bio that I I mentioned when I introduced you. Okay, one is you're a universal life minister. So, what is that, and how did that happen?
Okay, so it started out originally, I was dating somebody at the time who, was taking, uh, reflexology
Mhm.
from, some people over in school, and this yeah, I guess I had reflexology too in my massage therapy, but their suggestion was at the time, since you cannot prescribe, you cannot do, any kind of counseling for people when you're doing massage. Getting the minister's license was a way to help protect you if there was any kind of problem. It gave you the ability to counsel because you are now a minister. Um, that was my original thought when I did it, but within a very short period of time of doing it, I suddenly felt the calling and even thought about starting my own church at one point. And that hasn't come to pass, but I still feel that I use it to counsel people a lot.
Hmm.
And but more spiritually helping them with learning what I know. And so it's not more religious, it's more spiritual than religious as a universal life minister.
Yeah. So, was this an online degree, or did you attend a seminary, or how did that
It
work?
was an online degree,
Okay.
and I did feel called to do it. Like I said, originally it was a protection, for me to be able to do massage and not worry about whether I was going to be sued or something. But in the end, I found that it was more a calling of, wow, I feel drawn to minister to people and to help them on their path and to help be a good support system for them.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, you mentioned that you're a Reiki master in 10 different forms of Reiki. So I'm curious about that because I'm a Reiki master in one form of Reiki. So give us an idea of what your preferred form is and what are some of the other forms. Uh, why bother with more than one form?
Well, what I've learned through even just going through the most famous one or the one that most everybody starts out with is the Usui form of Reiki. That was my first Reiki. And each time that you get an attunement, as it was originally called, you're clearing your energy channels. I remember back when I took Usui Reiki, you went through that 7-day cleanse for each chakra. It was like 21 days where they told you you just got your attunement, your root chakra is going to clear and like all your chakras are going to clear. And so it was 21 days. So it would start with your root chakra, work up all the way to your crown. And then the second week, the same thing would happen in the third week. And so each time that you got a different level attunement, so at first level, that would happen. At second level, it would clear again. And when you took your master teacher level, it would clear again. And I don't know, it was just like because I got so excited about energy, I just felt drawn that there were certain ones that I just wanted to learn, and I did Kundalini Reiki as my next Reiki, and when I took that one, I loved it. I used it all the time because it was quick. It was so short, and instead of being like a 45-minute session, it was only 7 minutes for Kundalini Reiki. And you were using your own instead of coming from source, you were using your own energy for Kundalini Reiki. I enjoyed that one a lot, and it was very powerful. And then, I don't know, it just the more I, like, when the more I felt drawn to something, I just had to have it. And knowing that every time I got an attunement, it was doing some form of clearing that made it easy for me to not have to research anything,
Yeah.
why not? And so Kundalini, for the longest time, had become my favorite Reiki until I started into I had several other ones after that. I got the Camelot Reiki. I got, Sakim Sakem. I got Shambhala. And although I felt more powerful using those, they were just, eh. It was a lot of hard work, and I didn't wanna have to think that easily, that hard. But when I got into Karuna Reiki, that was the one that I felt like I went home. When I learned the symbols for that, I felt like, wow, this is me. These like they just came to me. The symbols were so easy, and every time I used it, I felt so good afterwards. And when I took Karuna, Holy Fire was a part of it was one of the symbols I learned during Karuna, but I felt drawn to take the Holy Fire afterwards, and I did do that. And I've been using Holy Fire a lot now too. So I'd have to say Karuna and Holy Fire have become my two favorites now. I use Yusui pretty often for the symbols, but
Mhm.
the Karuna and Holy Fire have become my latest favorites.
Yeah.
Although I have to say I use Sonic Reiki a lot, and you don't really hear about that one because that one, the couple that had made it up or channeled it or whatever you want to call that, it was very powerful, but it was very something where you had to create a chamber and you had to come up with the colors that would help with the healing. You had to come up with the purpose of, okay, so what's this healing for? What's it going to do? Is it going to remove things? Is it going to replace stuff? And I have to say, I have had to use Sonic Reiki quite a few times. And it does involve singing, but
Mhm.
it's like setting up a healing chamber and using many different colors and intentions, and then singing several times before it comes to fruition, before it's done. But
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have learned that because I've used it a lot of times in my clearings.
So when you use that term, I had to use sonic Reiki.
Okay,
What does that mean? Who was forcing you to do this?
okay, so it wasn't it was a strong compulsion, I guess you could say. Because of the energy that I've learned to do over time, I use a pendulum to ask questions of my guides, guardian angels, and my high self committee. And what I can tell you about your high self committee, a lot of people know that they're still connected to source somewhere. And a lot of people use the term high self, which is usually your aspect that is still back at source. Well, when I learned SRT, or spiritual response therapy, it we all found out that everybody had guides, guardian angels, and a high self committee, and your committee was a group of people that were set up to help you with your spiritual journey, to help you become your best self, to help you be like to have somebody to talk to for your spiritual guidance. So when I'm using my pendulum, if you don't ask to speak to anything specific, oftentimes you're just speaking to your own inner being
Mm.
or sometimes your ego. And so I always ask to speak to my high self committee when I'm doing any kind of healing on anybody, because my high self committee talks to their high self committee that tells me what they need for their journey and whether it's feasible, whether it's for their highest good to have it or not, because they may want a healing, but they may not have written it into their this lifetime,
Mm.
what they're meant to do. And so anytime I'm saying what I meant by I had to was, well, my high self told me that this is what was needed in order for this healing to happen, because some methods will work for someone and some methods will not. And it was specific to what they needed or what the land needed, because I shared with Bob before this that I do a lot of land clearings. And oftentimes I have to use sonic Reiki in order to do the land clearings, because there are certain tones that are needed to help with the land, or certain intentions that are needing to be set, or certain colors. And so sonic Reiki is very specific, unlike Usui or any other of the Reikis, where you put your hands on them, you set an intention, you don't really have to worry about it. It's taken care of. With sonic Reiki, you're very much a part of what's happening, and you're using your high self committee to tell you, well, we need this color, this color, this color, and we are going to use these sounds and these intentions. And
Mhm.
so it's very different.
Okay, so when you're working with sounds, are you chanting? Are you humming? Are you using crystal bowls? Are you using tuning forks? What kind of vibratory
Okay, so
work is this?
with sonic Reiki, it's usually my own voice. And when you have a group of people who are doing it together, everybody might feel drawn to do something different. So I might be singing a tune. I've been known to sing tunes before. I've been known to tone. I'm following my intuition, but some people may not be good at singing, and so they may be reciting a prayer on the side. It's whatever's unique to you of your energy during the time for sonic Reiki.
Mhm.
Now, for my healings, when I'm working on somebody specifically, it could be anything. I could be toning. I could be singing a tune. I could be speaking in light language, because that again is energy. It could be whatever I feel drawn to in the moment. Or maybe I'll feel drawn to pick up a rattle and shake it over somebody. Or, because that is also a frequency too.
Mhm. Light language. Where do I learn light language? What school do I have to go to for that one?
I wish I could tell you the answer to that. And honestly, because I'm not new to channeling, I'm not new to light language, but I'm new to knowing what I'm doing. Some people look at it written down and go, "Oh, that's light language." That's not me. I know there are moments I'm speaking light language, and other times what is meant by light language is it wakes up your DNA in your cells. So specific tones and things will ignite a memory of something of your 12-strand DNA that gets lit up. That's why it's
Hmm.
called light language. I do know there are people out there that know more about it than I do. I just speak it. I don't know how to teach it. I just do it. And I wish I could tell the difference as to when I'm speaking light language and when it's just a sound communication. At this moment, even though I've been doing it a very long time, I don't know the difference.
Oh,
Other people can tell you that. I honestly can't. And I think there are people out here who teach it, but I'm not one of them. For me, it's spontaneous.
Yeah. I mean, what it triggered in me is the concept that we have photons throughout our bodies, and that this connects with those photons.
Okay, I like that.
Because there's light, we are light beings.
Right.
So if you're waking up the light in our DNA, then it's starting to make sense to me, just a bit.
And I know there's many different forms of how it's written down.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of equated a little bit to in the Catholic Church, the speaking of tongues.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes that is the reason that healing happens. It's a form of light that
Mhm.
is going in and waking up the DNA or causing it to remember its perfection.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that one.
Since I don't know the answer to that one.
All right, spiritual response therapy. What is that?
Okay, so the short version is SRT, and that is using a pendulum. I did go to class to learn how to do it, but I missed level 1. I did level 1 on my own, so to speak, the beginner's class, by buying the book. And I think the second, I'm trying to think of the name of the first book that taught the beginners how to do it was called The Freedom Path. And I purchased the book. I had a bunch of friends who were doing it, and it looked really fantastic because you could research your past lives using the pendulum. And doing that, you could find out what type of illness you have had before and research it and possibly heal it in this lifetime. And so I was excited about using a pendulum and if there's anything I can do to fix myself and all these allergies,
Mm,
this was one of my first ways that I started getting
yeah.
into healing my allergies after the herb things and the Reiki. And so I would um I learned how to use a pendulum and I wasn't very good at it. It would
Mm,
just kind of sit still and barely move. And I had only been working with a pendulum maybe 5 days, if even that. And a woman came into the Indian summer where I was sitting at a table working with, a friend and using the pendulum. And she said, I need you to do that for me. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. And she's like, my guides, I was
mm.
driving past here and they told me to come in here and find you. I need you to do that on me. And I'm like, okay. I really had only been using a pendulum for 5 days and I
Yeah,
was not very good at it. I didn't really know what I was doing and I was being told I had to help her. At this point, I think I was a second level Reiki student, so at least I knew how to do some energy.
yeah.
And I went off to a table and she said, I need help getting pregnant. And I went, I'm thinking, and you think I can help you with that? So Spirit kind of threw me this curveball. And I went over and sat down at a table, pulled out the pendulum, and started asking questions. And I found out she had a whole lot of past lives that she had miscarried or been unable to get pregnant. Well, I'd only learned how to do maybe 5 lifetimes at a time.
Mm,
She had, like, something like 20,000. It was a lot.
yeah.
It was a really, really high number, and I went, "I think I could do 20. What do I do with this?" So a voice in my head I heard said, "Get up and go over and ask your friend to look at his book." Well, he had taken the level 1 SRT that I hadn't taken.
Oh,
I was just learning out of the book that I had bought. I went over to I said, "Do you mind if I borrow your book?" He's like, "Oh, go right ahead." So I heard the voice say, "Open to the first page." So I open up his little book, and in there was these 3 paragraphs, and I heard, "Recite them to yourself, don't say them out loud." So I read them all inside my head, and interestingly, they said, "Okay, now use that to help this woman." Well,
Okay.
I recited them in my head, and interestingly, it was asking for Googles and Googles and Googles of power to be able to clear, and it named all of these things that clear this, and so in other words, I was invoking Googles and Googles and Googles of power to be able to clear this on somebody. And it must have worked because I heard maybe a year later or something. Like, I never heard back from her, but then I heard that maybe something happened. Well, within a short period of time, somebody else heard that I had helped somebody get pregnant, and they said, "I need you to do that for me." And I'm thinking, "I don't know what I'm doing." And I did a 1-hour session just doing my healing, my Reiki, but now using these new 3 paragraph things of invoking Googles and Googles of power. And within a very short period of time, I did 1 1-hour session on her. She was pregnant. So she told another woman. And another woman, came up and asked for the same thing. I did 1 1-hour session on her. Well, this happened 4 times. Every one of those women ended up getting pregnant. I'm like, "I guess I have a new specialty." So, I got another phone call that was a woman in, Chicago asking me sh if I could help her get pregnant, and now by this time, I've learned how to use the pendulum, I'm getting better at it. I'm learning how to ask the questions to clear out. Basically, it's using the pendulum to go into your Akashic records. You're researching past lives, future lives, parallel lifetimes, all different forms, sometimes, in different dimensions too. Even though we don't know that it was all channeled material, when you research these things, it tells you go here, 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 and here to help you heal this lifetime for this person. So you use the pendulum to give you the instructions to get the information to clear it. So I checked with the pendulum and I can help this person. And I'm like, really? Well, the funny thing is she was only 30 years old. She had been through menopause already. The doctors had told her that it
Mm.
was impossible for her to get pregnant because both of her ovaries had shriveled up and died. And here I'm being told that I can help this woman get pregnant.
Okay.
And I said, "Well, I'm game if you're game." And she's like, "Listen, I'll try anything." So I did a 1-hour session on her. I did a second 1-hour session on her. But the neat thing that happened was they always talk about acting as if her and her husband and all the people at work who heard about me working on her said, "We'll help you with this." So she started imagining that she was able to get pregnant, but I did do 2 healing sessions on her. She set up and painted a baby's room, went and bought a crib, put it in there, acted as if all of her people at work were helping her, by pretending that she was gonna get pregnant, and it happened, and she ended up being pregnant with twins, and the doctors were confounded and had no idea, but her ovaries ended up healing, and she got new eggs, and she got pregnant with twins. So, the SRT works, that's all I can say.
Well,
And I had a lot of help from my divine helpers.
I mean, people invest thousands and thousands of dollars in trying to get pregnant when it's been an issue for them.
I've heard that recently, and somebody suggested that maybe that could be my new specialty. I mean, I have helped other people after that, but I just like helping people make their dreams come true.
Yeah,
And since they say nothing is impossible, it's like I thought about it and said, well, it might just be stuck energy. Like
yeah.
and so what I did was I worked on a lot of her issues having to do with motherhood, what was in her thought processes, cleared out the past lifetimes that she had miscarried or lost something, her belief that she was not going to be a good enough mother, the issues she had with her own mother. By clearing all of that out, that paved the way for her to heal and then become what it
Mm,
what she wanted in order
yeah.
to achieve her goal.
Wow. That's that's something. Uh, I think I'm gonna skip over EFT, and I'm gonna let you take a drink
Thank
because
you.
I spirit's telling me that you need a drink.
Thank you.
Uh, and let's move to orthobionomy, or spontaneous release. So what's that?
Okay, so OrthoBionomy was created by a chiropractor out in California that believed that there was a reason that our vertebrae would go out of alignment or any other part of our body would go out of alignment. And he came up with the idea that if something is crooked, you make it a little bit more crooked, it'll straighten itself out. And that's what the concept of orthobionomy is. Instead of forcing something back into place, you are giving it what it needs or wants in order for the adjustment to happen by itself. Now, the reason I call it spontaneous release is because I don't have the 500 hours of training in orthobionomy to say that I do orthobionomy.
Oh,
I've I've had 32 hours of training. I still use the technique, but I can't be considered, that I'm doing orthobionomy. It's
yeah.
spontaneous release until I have that um,
Certification.
certification,
Yeah.
but it still works. And so I've used that on people. As a matter of fact, my first one was a young lady that was 20 years old and her toes had never touched the ground. Like her feet would sit and her toes sat above it. And I did orthobionomy on her and her toes readjusted. I think I did 2 sessions on her and was the first time in her life that her toes actually touched the ground. So you can use it on different parts of the body. So if somebody has a flat foot, you can give them an arch. If their foot is too arched, you can flatten it out. It works um, for a lot of people. Actually, I've saved them from knee surgery because most people don't know you can regrow cartilage in your knee, and you can do orthobionomy in the knee, and oftentimes the cartilage will regrow. So it's a
Hmm.
technique that I is great to know, and I do plan on taking some more classes in that. And someday maybe I'll have my certification, but
So it sounds to me like you work with all kinds of people, all kinds of issues, and you're just a fix-it person who, no matter what my issue is, you can take care of it.
well, not necessarily. That all depends upon whether your spirit or your soul is if it was written into your what you're meant to do and be in this lifetime.
So part
So
of your
there
soul contract.
yes, and
Yeah,
so I can only work with those beings and people who are willing that are ready for what I have to offer cuz I do check.
yeah.
I if somebody asks to work with me, I check first to see whether I can help them before I say yes because if it says I can only help them 30%, that's not worth their time, I feel,
Yeah,
in order to have them work with me. So I usually try to check with my guides and their guides first to find out whether that's part of their journey and whether I can help them or not. So if I can't help them, I try to refer them to somebody who can.
yeah. So if somebody's got a problem and they wanna get a hold of you, because it sounds like you might be able to help them, what's the best way to do that?
For me, that is usually via texting or phoning. Um, I'm not great at checking my emails, I'll tell you that right now. So if you send me an email, oftentimes you have to send me a text message that says, I just sent you an email.
Yeah.
And that's only because I have so many emails that it's gotten overwhelming.
Mhm.
And so do you want me to give the number then or
That's up to you.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So 878-867-1297.
Maybe repeat that one more time.
Once again, that's 878-867-1297. Now, if you are wanting to look at my website,
Okay.
to read about me and what I do and to see my prices, that is I might need your help on that one because I get that one screwed up with my email
Well,
address.
there are 2 thoughts here. One is just www.cynthiacavitt.com.
Okay, that is my website.
Okay, and then you mentioned sacred service.
Okay. So, yeah, the cynthiacavitt.com is how
That
you can read about sacred service.
okay. All right. Well, we sound good there. So we have reached the end of our time,
Okay.
uh, and I don't know. I just find you so fascinating. I could go on and on, like ask you about access bars on your jewelry, and I'm assuming on your website you've got
I do have a lot of
descriptions of these
I
things,
do have a lot of information on my
you have
website.
pictures of your jewelry, and
The pictures of my jewelry, I do not yet, and there's a reason behind that because it takes me a while to make the jewelry. Maybe not the earrings so much, but I do a lot of wire wrap, and I don't have enough jewelry to put it out there to like, "Oh, well, you can just buy my jewelry," and that's why oftentimes it's custom. So I may
yeah.
pick a stone for you and you say, "Well, I want a bracelet or I want earrings or I want a necklace," and then I can make it specific to you because that does take a lot of time.
Okay. And maybe they can catch you at another psychic fair?
Oh, absolutely. I will be at the next psychic fair coming up in oh shucks. I I honestly don't know the date of that right now.
All
But I
right,
have one that's
it's one
coming.
of Kitsy Higgins' psychic fairs
Yes,
that's held at the Comfort Inn on Rhode Road.
correct.
Okay, so when that's released, I'll probably be letting people know on this show because that's something that I try to get to
Yeah.
frequently. So at this point in time, I typically allow the guest to leave the audience with a few words of wisdom. So, anything that you would like to say to the folks that might help them on their journey, this is your chance.
My biggest suggestion is to know that everything, and I mean everything, happens for a reason, and that you may feel stuck, but you're in the space that you're in for a reason. And so try to figure out what you're either one, meant to learn from it, or two, what's the next part of your journey so you can get beyond the part where you've been stuck at. And so it might be calling someone like me to help you get unstuck, or it might be talking to a friend or just being able to vent about it because oftentimes bringing it to our awareness and talking about something is enough to cause the momentum to push you over the edge to get you to move forward. And I would say the biggest thing I've learned is you ask a question of the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, that you want to have happen rather than what you don't want to experience, because the quickest way to move forward is to ask the universe a question. And that might be, well, what's the next step in my journey? And then the universe will answer. Or, what kind of healing does my body need in order to heal? What kind of modality? And then you may be given a nudge toward a particular direction. So, asking questions is the quickest way to move forward.
Good advice. So, audience, as always, take what you've heard, incorporate into your life that which resonates with you, and put the rest on a shelf until you're ready to deal with it. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.